Hello, NAAIA community. Get ready to relive insightful discussions, gain fresh perspectives, and be inspired by the wealth of knowledge our community has to offer. Let's dive into another episode.
I'm excited to welcome you to the first NAAIA National Emerging Leaders Roundtable. So today represents the start of a journey to foster growth, innovation, diversity within our industry by investing in you, those who are not only the future leaders at the highest levels of our industry, but all of you who are leading right now where you are. So in a rapidly evolving landscape, cultivating that next generation of talent isn't just beneficial, it's imperative. And one of the hallmarks of great leadership is understanding the value of passing that torch, not just in terms of knowledge transfer, but also in terms of nurturing fresh perspectives and groundbreaking ideas. At NAAIA, diversity, equity, and inclusion lie at the heart of our mission to transform the insurance and risk management industry's talent landscape at every level. And investing in emerging leaders isn't just about checking a box. It's about embracing the richness of your varied experiences, backgrounds, and viewpoints. Each of you brings a unique set of skills, insights, and aspirations to the table. And it's this diversity that fuels innovation, propelling our industry forward and enabling us to better serve our communities. So I want to encourage each of you to be a catalyst for a good change, challenge the status quo, push the industry and our senior most leaders to rethink conventional practices and adopt more inclusive approaches in all that we do. As we navigate an increasingly interconnected global landscape, your fresh perspectives aren't just advantageous, they're indispensable. Today's roundtable is about empowering you to step into your full potential, providing you with the tools needed to thrive. So before I introduce our speakers today, I want to acknowledge the great work that has been done and has been happening behind the scenes. And in particular, we want to thank Brandy Monique, who served as NAAIA's first national emerging leader for 4 years. And I'm excited to serve with our second NAAIA National Emerging Leader, Owie Agbontaen, Vice President of Business Development at Sampo International. Today, Owie will be interviewed by Mercy Hudson, Senior Associate of Project and Program Management for Willis Towers Watson's Southeast region. And since joining WTW in 2014 as an executive assistant, Mercy has held a variety of roles with increasing responsibility in business support and project and program management, supporting C-suite executives in driving revenue growth and fostering colleague engagement. Mercy holds a bachelor's degree in mathematical sciences from George Mason University and an MBA in finance from Strayer University. So please welcome Mercy and Owie to the stage as they begin today's roundtable discussion. Thank you. Have a great session.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Jephthah. Mercy, how are you?
I'm well, Owie. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm excited. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I see people from New York, shout out Brooklyn. See people from Chicago. That's where I'm at now. Cincinnati, we've got Florida, we've got Richmond, we've got Dallas. So excited to see everybody and glad we've got folks that are excited to learn and grow and change, the way we do work in this industry at a young age, right? Or as an emerging professional or young professional, however you want to categorize it as that in the industry. So excited to be here with you, excited to have the conversation. And yeah, let's jump into it. I know Michelle gave you a lot of background. I mean, Michelle, where was my intro, right? Like no, but no, I
tell us.
Right. No, it gives us a good starting point, right? So if you don't mind me asking you to just dive in about your career and how you kind of got to your point, and then I'll share my journey as well.
Okay, you have taken the lead there. Reverse here. There's no problem at all. But I needed to also shout out my go-to snack for those who know me are Mentos. I love Mentos. It's really bad. I can eat a pack in an hour. Don't judge me. Okay, But hello, everyone. I am Mercy. I work with WTW, Willis Towers Watson, formerly Willis, all the iterations prior. I am originally from Bronx, New York. So all those that were shouting out New York, woohoo, but Bronx, boogie down, it's home for me. But now I live in Richmond, Virginia. So shout out to some people I saw that are representing from Central VA. And a little bit of my background is, yes, I started as an EA because I worked for a telecommunications company in college at George Mason University. And upon graduating with working with that telecommunications company, it was Verizon actually, and I wanted to give back to them. I was actually interning in finance at the time. And as every college person, upon graduation, they need to secure that full-time job. And what are we going to do? And so there was a position available for a financial analyst or an EA. I applied for both. As many college students, you just apply for everything. You can have major in psychology and say, no, I'm gonna apply to be a dog sitter or something. It doesn't matter, you want to secure a job. And so upon graduating, I learned that I did get the EA role. And I was like, sure, that's my full-time job. I'll table finance and go that route. Literally a month later, I found out I got the finance position. But the reason why I stayed in the EA role, the business support role, was I'm able to interact with many stakeholders. I don't have to be confined within a department. I can interact with engineering. I can interact with communications, just across the board. So in handling that journey, my family relocated down from Northern Virginia down to Central Virginia about 10 years ago. And I needed to find a job anyway. I landed at Willis at the time, and I have been supporting some senior level executives within the company. And it wasn't until around the pandemic where a lot of uncertainty, what to do. As I was telling Owie prior to this, if you're married or in a relationship, either got married or you got divorced or had a baby. I was one of the people that actually had a baby throughout the pandemic. So yes, so I kept my marriage. But I say all that to say, you also were trying to figure out what you want to do in your career. So yes, I don't want to say I was coasting at the company, but I was comfortable. But with the pandemic, you want to do more. And so I used that opportunity to get involved in the I&D initiatives within my company, to not even just I&D initiatives within learning and development, promoting the admin network, wanted to start interacting with clients and prospects, twofold and continue going. So it wasn't until the end of last year, I was able to get promoted. And so now I have shifted from business support. Now I'm handling project and program management for the Southeast region and for North America initiatives. And I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm driven and aspire to do more because, hey, the sky's the limit. And we'll see what that unfolds, and we'll share how you can continue to navigate and go from there. So, but enough about me. I think I did everything in like a nutshell. We want to hear
pretty
you,
good.
Owie.
Yeah, no,
we
that
want
was
to hear
good.
about you. Tell us, you're the VP. You're the VP. So I want to hear a little bit more about you and how you've gotten to the successful point where you are now, and if there's even room for further advancement. So please tell me.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for sharing. Nothing short of spectacular. Shout out Administrative Professionals Month. So this is perfect timing and in the spirit. So but shout out to you, your career and your journey. Obviously, it's a growing path. So looking forward to seeing, obviously where we both go, but how it can lead from something so apply everywhere to now something so focused, dedicated, and passionate, right? So similar to your story, I was a college kid. I went to Boston College. Didn't know really what I was looking to do, right? And I'll give a quick story, but a lot of folks might have heard this story. I was, I had a lot of older friends. They were coming back. I went to a career fair. They were coming back with their companies, and they're giving out swags, glasses, pens, USB drives, whatever to attract attention to their tables. And so I'm leaving all of my friends who had graduated years prior, coming back. They're like, hey, take this, take this, take this. And, if it's free, it's for me. So I'm like, I'll take it back to friends and whatnot. But I've got all this stuff in my hands and I'm walking out of the career fair, and CNA, their swag at the time, they had the pens, they had the USB drives, but they also had bags. So I stopped at their table and I'm saying like, hey, can I have a bag for all this stuff that I got from all these other tables right at the career fair? I didn't think twice. My day was done, And kudos to the guy who was there. His name was Chris Sullivan. He's like, hey, I'll give you a bag for all your stuff, but drop a resume, tell me about yourself, talk to me a little bit. And obviously from there, that's like a career, straight trajectory in a completely different direction, because out of that conversation, I got an interview, right? He's like, hey, I think you might be a good fit for our trainee program, our underwriting trainee program. And I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. I'll go through the interview process. I'll take every interview that comes my way. I'll entertain any job that's offered. And so from that conversation was the interview. And then before Thanksgiving of my senior year of college, I had a job, right? And so that was like an incredible couple of weeks, because it's not something that I expected. Obviously, you go to a career fair hoping you get an interview from somewhere, but a completely different industry than what I had expected, right? I was a communications and marketing major. I did radio, I did PR, I did advertisements, visual aesthetics. I did a lot of different things, also involved with a lot of things on campus, and none of it had to do with, none of it really had to do with finance, and definitely not insurance, so to think that really came out of a conversation, it kind of was actually a great intro to the insurance industry, because it showed how much of the industry is about people and about conversations and making sure people understand, who you are as a person to take you to that next level, right? So all the conversations that I had through the interview process they were people, right? They were just people. And it really set the bar for me from an industry perspective to understand that insurance is so much more than I understand at the time. But at the base level, it's a lot about what I do understand, which is people, communication, in marketing myself to people, right? Brand recognition and relationships. And that, that's something that I've studied, things that I do or feel like I do naturally. So that led me to CNA. I was an underwriting trainee out of New York. Shout out BK, Brooklyn. So, I got to stay home and go to work as an underwriting trainee, learn middle market business. That's where I got my start, property and casualty underwriting. I did that for 3 years, right, between New York and Boston. And through that, it was all about relationships, all about communication and understanding, right? I was teachable at the time, open to learning numerous things, but also trying to figure out what the industry was about. And still at the base level, it was about people and the relationships. And a lot of those folks I met in my first year are some of still my closest industry relationships, almost 10 years later, right? So it really took me from that entry level person into, where I am at now. And a lot of the relationships that I have with the folks that I work with are 10 years, right? Or remember 10 years ago, or that we were in this bar talking about X, Y, and Z, right? And I can maintain that. And so, to further along the story from CNA, I went into Sampo, which is where I work now. I started in their middle market team. I was the first underwriter for middle market to write in Chicago. I built the book of business from about $0 to about $15 million of new business that, it was a new group. So that was, they started increasing my goals, because I'm like, it was an untapped market for us at the time, which gave me a lot of opportunity to start those relationships, grow those connections, and write business, right? At the end of the day, get deals done. which then turned into more of a hybrid role where I was acting as dual distribution between middle market underwriting and being the man behind the desk, right? And traveling to see brokers, to then also sales and distribution, right? Business development. Because of all the relationships that I had from the underwriting side, even if it didn't have to do with middle market, those brokers were coming to me, right? They were asking me, hey, who do I go to? Who do I talk to? Can you guys get this done? Can you make a call to X, so-and-so person to see if this is something you guys can do? And it naturally transitioned into kind of a hybrid role, which perfect timing. Sampo was expanding our distribution model and really leaning into the business development factor of the deals and how much the senior level relationships impact our business on a day-to-day level. And so I was able to transition from middle market into fully business development over the last 2 years, and run sales and distribution for the Chicago office. My territory is currently Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Dakotas, the third largest region in the US for Sampo. All because of a couple relationships, right? All because of some of the things that I had done really well from the start of my career into transitioning into a new market in Chicago and then growing those, right? And so now I support all products and all lines, middle market, excess casualty, inland, ocean, cyber, D&O, excess casualty, everything that we write in Chicago, I handle from a, influence management, I guess you could say, but then also from a sales and distribution from a numbers perspective, right? Not really in charge of P&Ls or loss history for those products, but growth, right? New business growth, strategic partnerships between our brokers, between our clients, client engagement. I wear a couple different hats here at Sampo, and I've done it at I guess relatively young age, which is always a gift and a curse in a way, because I'm always kind of thinking like, damn, can I do this, right? Can I even be in this space? Should I even be in this space? And I'm sure a lot of folks in similar positions, and you as well, I'm sure, have felt this, like I don't know if I'm in the right place, right? And if I don't know if I'm underqualified for what I'm doing, right? And that gets hard at times, but it's definitely something that you appreciate the journey along the way, right? Like it took a lot, and it took a lot out of me too to get to this point, right? And no one can take the previous journey of how I got here away from me, right? Whether or not they feel I'm the right person for the job, they can't take away how much it took to actually get to this point. So it's an incredible journey so far. Similar to you, I'm not done yet, right? Always looking for what I can do more, where I can stick my hands in, in the industry, and where I can be helpful to people coming up after me, or folks in the office, or folks at other events, and asking questions and sharing that story, right? Or my story, or my path, even the hard parts. And making sure people understand, right? It's not a straight path, but it is a nice and long, rewarding one, even though you might be in the middle of it right now. So,
okay, Owie. I just got a virtually. Okay, okay. You have spilled a lot of nuggets. But there's a question that came in, but before I get to that question, just in what you shared, how do you overcome currently that barrier where you may be one of the youngest in the room, but have this title, your upper management or senior level title? How do you navigate that in a room, or before they even understand what your title is or what your role is? How do you navigate that perception within our industry? And like, what are the pros and the cons with being an emerging leader as you are, and you're not even to your final destination? Can you share a little bit how to navigate that?
Yeah, it's not easy. I'm still learning, right? I'm still learning how to navigate some spaces, but a lot of the meetings that I do now, especially because it's more senior level, it's more management, I'm probably 90% of the time the youngest person in the room, right? Like it's without question, and probably one of the only minorities in the room. And that's mainly just the nature of the business, right? You guys, you feel it as well, you know, in the industry, right? Obviously, the reason NAAIA exists and has its purpose is because that we're unique in a lot of scenarios. You know, and I use that to my advantage, right? That's perspective that is not often shared. That's points of views and backgrounds and journeys that aren't often shared. So my perspective is very different than the people that are sitting across the table from me. You know, I don't, it's, I use it like an advantage, right? I'm the youngest, but I also probably put in a lot more work than the people that are experienced, right? And experience doesn't necessarily mean knowledge. It's more so years and time spent, but also, you know, if you've got somebody that can do the job that you do maybe twice as fast or twice as better, and they're, you know, then they should be qualified for that position or to be sitting in that room with you. And that's, you know, that's kind of where I find myself, is I put in a lot of work and try to make sure that the work speaks for, you know, speaks for itself. And it puts me in that room regardless of what people might think or say, because at the end of the day, they're still looking at me to make some of those decisions or give some perspective or offer thoughts that they might not have thought of just given my background. And given my, I guess my, you know, my perspective as someone young and new to the industry and new ways of thinking. So
I appreciate you sharing that you know that when you're in these rooms, when you're in these settings, when you're in these groups, that you know you walk in there with an advantage because of the different perspective you can share with the audience of those around you. And I would say the same. With my particular role, I'm not in a box within my company. Yes, I do support various leaders within our Southeast region, but I also am in rooms where it is senior leadership. And I remember right after the pandemic, I had to be a part, well, I didn't have to be, I wanted to be a part of a client advisory group we had, and we had some of our senior leaders or our global leaders present for this this large meeting. And literally 2 days before, the one who was supposed to spearhead the meeting was unfortunately able to attend due to COVID. And so I was like, oh, this is my chance to kind of shine a little bit. What am I getting myself into? But anyway, got there, and I remember meeting one of our global leaders. And at first I thought I need to be so polished. And so I'm using these words loosely here, but so polished and so poised. And I'm like, I don't know all the insurance terminology or what we even, all the ins and outs of everything. But what I do know is that I'm good at what I do. And you said a key point earlier in your intro is all about relationships and communicating. That drives you far. Yes, we can get into the ins and outs of business and the deals and all of that. But at the end of the day, it is about, oh, you walked here from the hotel. How was the walk? Oh, did you notice that puddle or that pothole? Did you hear that loud train? Or did you get that nice coffee at the coffee shop right downstairs? Like just making those one-offs, and it's relational. And so that experience with not even just the global leaders there, but just even with the clients, allow me to like settle down, like Mercy, you got this. You be you, bring that extra, not extra energy, because I'm just a ball of energy anyway, but bring that energy. Don't confine to what insurance has been or the brokerage business has been. We need that fresh light, that innovation. You said perspective, fresh insights, because the landscape, the industry, it is changing, it's evolving. And to bring in this diverse talent, they need to see people like us. And it's not just how we look in the color of our skin, but in our dialogue. And I'm wearing bright purple. I'm still wearing my big earrings, all of that, but it doesn't dismiss or minimize the impact that I can share within the industry. So I just wanted to
Right.
share that as well.
No, definitely. I mean, that's crucial to, to what we're trying to do and accomplish within NAAIA is empower the folks to be that person, right? And to then have that person's manager or other folks in the room is like, look at them and say, with this work, I mean, why don't we have more Mercies, right? Why don't we have more Owies in the room? Like, where are these guys, right? And so that's what I hope to bring to the room is why aren't there more of me, right? And I kind of always jab a little bit like, yeah, I wish, in meetings like that where I'm I feel like I'm doing a great job. I'm like, yeah, you guys need two of me to do a lot of this stuff, right? And put it in their ear where it's like, well, let's look into that. Let's try to figure out how do we get more perspective like yours? How do we open the doors that might have been previously closed to folks that we might not have entertained for whatever reason, and it doesn't just have to be race, but it's, everything goes into that. Age, sex, race, it's everything. And so, I want people to ask why there aren't more of us in the room. Why aren't, because the quality, obviously the work still has to speak for itself. That's first and foremost, right? But if the work and quality is there, why aren't we need more of this, right? It's only going to increase productivity and increase what we're trying to do as a company. So that's been a key to what we're doing, obviously, with NAAIA, and then we're also within the emerging leaders trying to help people find that voice too, because it's not an easy thing to walk into a room and say, you need two of me, right? But it's more about feeling comfortable that the work you're doing is top notch, right? Like the work is incredible, and that hard work shouldn't go unnoticed. In the smallest and in the biggest of scenarios. And one thing is, you mentioned about the meeting where a colleague wasn't available and you stepped in and stepped up, right? Like that's like one of my favorite quotes is like there's no such thing as luck, right? It's just opportunity met with preparedness. And so there's so many opportunities that are going to come up here and there, and you're never really going to know when they're going to come up and what it's going to require of you. But if you're prepared for some of these opportunities that you might not have thought you would have been in the conversation for, that is the best case scenario for you to really step into the next role, right? And that similar situation happened with me at Sampo that really catapulted me into this kind of next level of management and next level of oversight for Chicago is, we had a senior leader meeting. Our CEO was in town. Our North American CEO was in town. Our business unit leaders were in town. And literally by chance, because I did sales and distribution, I wasn't a, vice president at the time. So I was like not left off of the meeting, but it wasn't, it was for VPs and up of the office. And in passing, the team lead is like, hey, you should jump into this meeting. It's important that you're in it because all the work that we expect you to do in Chicago. But I was like, oh, it wasn't on my calendar, but I'll step in, right? I'll just sit in the meeting. As I'm sitting there, we're talking about all the things that we should be doing in Chicago. We should be looking to get done, and the CEO of North America is like, yeah, and we're going to lean on Owie to do all of this stuff, right? We're going to point to him and lead you guys in that direction. I'm looking around like, if I wasn't in this meeting, like, would you have even mentioned, my name, right? And that completely turned my, my trajectory around in a way, because yes, I was on a path already to that point, but really being spoken into an existence in the meeting in front of all the vice presidents. Now they kind of look to me to lead them in that way, right? To do a lot of the meetings that we hold, to do a lot of the cross-selling, a lot of the initiatives, a lot of the starting points for what we're trying to build in Chicago. And that would have never really happened if I was like, oh, I'm not prepared for that meeting. I can't sit in on it, like, or I'm not, I'm not ready for that type of exposure with that group of people, or I'm the only one of my team in that meeting. I don't think I should be in there without them, or something like that, right? There's always an excuse to not meet an opportunity, right? But there's not many excuses not to take an opportunity if you're there, right? If you're in the room. And so just an incredible, how so many things can happen because of those types of conversations. And that's really what it comes down to. I know so many similar situations where people get promotions based on similar situations, right? Or get told that they're going to manage a new team, right? Or have the opportunity to raise their hand for something in a meeting that they might not have even been planning to attend in the first place, right? And get the opportunity to raise their hand for something greater than they are. So it's a journey. It's really, really tough to kind of try to think through that every day, right? It gets exhausting, but it really does change the growth and career of what you're looking to do. And some opportunities are not, you're never going to know what that next one is if you're not really prepared to see one. So
Okay. And someone said, I mean, validation that you are right in the right place at the right time, that your colleague invited you. It's being available for those opportunities to definitely happen. So in that, and you, towards the latter part of your statement, you said it can get exhausting. It can get exhausting to be that face, to prove that point as a young and diverse colleague or person within your company. So being sometimes exhausted by it or even overwhelmed or feeling that pressure, how do you help those stress levels? Like, how do you approach that? Because sometimes that can affect your productivity, that can affect even your well-being. So how do you approach managing that? I don't want to say weight, it's a good weight, but how do you just approach that?
A little bit of pressure always is good, right? Pressure makes diamonds, as they say. So, it is good, but to your point, mental health is extremely important, right? If you're not your full self coming to work, there's no way you're giving your full capabilities and putting that into work for, maximum output. But so mental health is extremely important. I try to, take personal time where I can, or, family is extremely important to me as well. Hobbies, I need to get a hobby is what I've been told. So, I'm working on that, right? Like, but, but there's times where, one of the, sometimes you have to sit back and say, there's only so much I can worry about in this scenario, like it's only going to detriment what I'm trying to accomplish in the future, right? Taking deep breaths. Like I tell my 3-year-old, just take a deep breath, you got it. But one of my old managers used to say all the time, and as passionate as we are about the industry and about the work that we're doing, and that we're, it's a job and it's insurance, right? I love the industry. I love the insurance industry, but at the same time, I'm like, at the end of the day, we're talking about insurance here, right? Like it's not whether or not you choose to save a life, right? It's more, like, hey, are people going to be helped the right way? And are these relationships going to be maintained the right way? Or is this policy going to be underwritten the right way? And you want a maximum output, that stuff. But you got to take a deep breath and step back and say, hey, we're doing great work, but we can, we still need time for ourselves too. And so that's one of the pieces that I kind of think about a lot of the times when I'm getting stressed out, and I'm like, man, I'm stressing out over like this underwriting this policy, and I'm like, man, if I could just, like not do this right now. But, you're like, it's not a big deal, right? It's not going to make or break your career in that one decision that you make, and then, to your point about, and to my earlier point about feeling qualified, some of that stresses me out as well, right? But a lot of times I'll like write down some of the accomplishments or some of the projects that I've done, and write that on a list so I can see it, right? It's a lot, I'm more of a visual person, and seeing a lot of the things that I've done or helped the teams with is important to me, because sooner or later you're going to realize like, oh man, I'm still writing things that I did this week. I'm still writing things that I did this month or this year. And it means so much, and that elevated to this level, and this made it easier to do this project, and this, and so, you didn't get to where you are by accident. So, taking a lot of your accomplishments and reading them over and understanding that also gives you a better opportunity to explain those projects when the time comes, right? Explain all of that you did that year, and mid-year and annual reviews are important to us as well. So, that helps.
Got it. Thank you, Owie. Man, just a bunch of nuggets. Yes, mental health is definitely important. And I know just even for me, how I was recently promoted, and I feel like I need to kind of prove myself again in the role that I'm in. And literally even the past 2 weeks, I've had to give myself grace, saying, I got here because I deserve to be here.
Right.
It is for the work that I've already done.
Yeah.
Anything more it's a bonus or to maintain, but at the same time, give yourself grace, because we do need to be at our most optimal mental level as possible, because that translates into our work. And so when it's a stressful time for even just me, I like to take a step back. I like to think about what is working and what is not working. And so even for me, all last year I was inundated with calls, meetings. God bless you, all the executives that have that on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis.
Yeah.
But for me, the past month and a half, I said, okay, I can no longer keep handling this pace of just always being on in meetings and on these calls. I need to have moments of breaks, because I need to have moments to react to these meetings, or even to be proactive to these upcoming meetings, to be optimal in the work that I do. So it's working. It's a slow process, but it's also, you need to have those moments to prioritize, whether it's monthly, whether it's every 2 weeks, whether it's quarterly or semi-annually, to have that check-in even with yourself as to, are you getting to where you want to go professionally, personally, or what have you, or not. But we got 2 questions I want to make sure we get to.
Yeah.
So one question that came is there any advice for senior professionals coming from other industries? How do they get into their first insurance role?
I don't even know if I'm the best person to answer that question, because there's so much to the industry that even I'm not privy to, right? Like I don't, there's so much into the industry that we're still uncovering, so many facets that are not even talked about within the insurance industry, or or underrepresented. But for some of friends of mine that I try to encourage to take a look at the insurance industry, it's where do you see that connection, right? Where is it? First of all, understanding what transition you're trying to make, right? Are you trying to jump into something, and for what reason? Or are you trying to leave something, and for what reason, right? And so trying to draw a connection, because there are tons of them out there, trying to draw a connection between the insurance industry and what your current profession is. You might not start where you want, when you first jump into the industry, you might not start exactly where you left off, right? If you were a VP or something at something that's not in the insurance industry, doesn't mean you're going to come into the industry and be a VP and start doing everything and knowing and understanding everything that comes with it. But that part takes a little bit of time, but at the same time, it's easy to figure out where you want to be, right? And what path trying to find the path to get there might be a little bit more challenging, but you'll know who to talk to, who to go to, right? Who to ask those questions. So that first step might not always be where you want it to be, but it's more of like an escalator versus a set of stairs, right? Once you're in the industry. So
and the person that mentioned that they're already in the role, but just advice for starting out in general. And I know it's when you are within insurance, as always said, it's multiple things you can do within. You can get into the technical industry savvy side, or whatever you did prior in other industries that can translate over into insurance. It's finding the pathway to that. and utilizing that. That's that different perspective that you can give insight into your company. So use that as an advantage. Also, another question came in because I want to make sure I get all the questions in. If you have questions, we got like 5 minutes left. So please drop them in the Q&A. But someone mentioned that, yes, I'm a parent. So how have you personally maintained the pace and rhythm of an accelerating career alongside being a present parent? How do you manage your yes and no to all of your competing priorities? Oh, that's a good question. I'll go and then I'll let Owie go.
Yeah, please, because
So,
you got 4. I
okay, you
have
just
1.
called me
So
out, but I was
yeah.
going to tell the folks, I got 4.
We could tell,
So,
so I had to, mention it.
so no, that's a timely question that is asked. So earlier on, within my company, I had 3, and I think I said it a little bit in my intro, I was comfortable in the role that I was in, and I wasn't really looking for advancement. I know, shame on me, but it's okay. Thank goodness for NAAIA and COVID and all those things. But I was coasting and my kids were younger. They were like 5, 3, and 1. They're 2 years apart. And so I was able to, it was easier before the pandemic too, because most people were in the office. So literally it's from 7:30 to 5 or 7:30 to 5:30. You have my time. After that, I am dedicated to my kids. And I was able to manage that for a period of time. Now, post-pandemic, I'm hybrid. It is a little bit of a struggle, and it's really where you sit in regards to your priorities. My kids are older, except for the toddler, but you all, just between you all and I, my husband asked for that toddler, so it's my husband's priority, really. I told him I was on the path of trying to go further in my professional journey.
Yeah.
But neither here or there. My 3 kids now, or my older 3, are 15, 13, 11. As long as I just have food on the table for them and they have their clothes, it doesn't require much. My toddler, when she comes home, she does not want to see me at this computer working. So what I have to do now, because I do work long hours and long days, long weeks, I try to make sure I am on before my kids wake up, even if it's an hour or even just 30 minutes. And then when I'm with my kids, I try to dedicate that time. When they're going off to school, I'm present. Do you have your socks on? Did you wash your face? All of that. I drive my daughter to daycare and back, and then I work. And then once they come home, it has been a little bit of a challenge in regards to like dinner time, whatever. And my husband and I will navigate that a little bit more, or we have to communicate a lot. But for those who may be single parents with a kid or more than one kid, you really need to make sure you balance the time between work and your personal time. You need to establish that, you need to set those expectations. Some of the people that I work with, they're newer leaders that I just got assigned to working with, and I let them know, like, I'm really not available after 7, or I'm not really available before 8:30 because I have to drop off my daughter or drop off my kids. I manage those expectations to the people that I work for. And just know that the time that you do work, you give it your all. You're not overly distracted. You are focused. You try to minimize distractions because you want the time with your children, or even for yourself, or for your pets. I'm not leaving out those who are pet mom and dads. Like, all of that truly matters. But it is that healthy balance. I hope I have answered that question. And then, Owie, are you able to answer that question in like a minute? Because we have one more question, and then we'll.
Yeah, honestly, like, I think, it's hard, right? I similar to your story, Mercy, like I drive my daughter to school every day on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every morning, and pick her up when I can. Mondays and Fridays I'm home with her all day, so I'm like working and home with her, so doing the double job duty there. And it's worked for me personally only because I tried to plan calls during like her naps, and then, like other guys, I can kind of spend time doing day-to-day stuff, maintenance, management, all of that stuff, emails on Mondays and Fridays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Once I drop her off, I'm on, right? As soon as I check her into daycare, I'm like, what emails did I miss? What did I move? It's like, it's almost like a compartmentalization of like what I'm doing, right? Once like I'm full dad mode, in the mornings, because I do her hair, I get her ready for school, I do, and I was talking about it today, right? Today was Dr. Seuss Day at my daughter's school, and I did her hair like Cindy Lou Who, because I hit them braids, and once them are, like I had them looped up, and I get so proud of that stuff, because honestly, I'm much more scared of what people think of me at her daycare as a parent than I probably am for work as an employee, right? And so like that means so much to me, right? And executing on that stuff is, to me, is just as important as executing at work. And so like it's almost like, you finish one job and you go to the next job as a parent, but it kind of like never stops, right? Because you as a parent, you're obviously always available during the day to answer calls or anything from caretakers and whatnot, and doctors and whatnot, bills, but it's all a work in progress, right? I try to fit them in ways that make sense, and then prioritizing, right? Telling work, hey, I can't come in until 9:15 because I'm dropping my daughter off. It's either you get me here at that time or not at all. In some scenarios, sometimes I have to make it work, but most of them, it's finding where that wiggle room is and taking advantage of it.
Thank you, Owie. So, and it's fun. We got girl dad goals, and you pulling the braids together. All right, shout out to you. There we go.
I work well under pressure, so I'm like, sheesh.
So I have two questions. The first one is probably easier to answer, and then I'm going to ask this question from one of the participants from the call. But what are 3 key attributes that an emerging leader must have? 3, just 3, short and quick. And while you're thinking, I'll answer.
Go ahead,
if
please.
I'm allowed to answer.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I would say curiosity is 1. I would say advocacy is another. And then the third, I would definitely say, and that has worked for me, is networking. And making connections. You don't know how those connections will really connect when you initially make it, but it's extremely powerful because it does all come into full circle down the road. So curiosity, advocacy, advocating for yourself, and then networking.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I've got a little bit of a spin, right? Curiosity's up there. I love advocacy, and as an emerging leader and trying to be a leader within my company, advocating for others as well, right? Like, as much as I want to see myself succeed, it's easier for me to point to somebody else's success that's being unnoticed and saying, hey, you guys got to focus a lot of attention on this person because they're doing some great work, or hey, they deserve to be in this space too. Let's point on them or call on them to have that conversation. So advocacy is important. I think responsiveness is one of the things I would say, because some of the newer generations I've seen have a little bit of trouble connecting on a timely manner, right? And they're like, oh, I didn't think you needed a response there. But like that interaction is so important, because even it's just a like, yeah, confirmed or receive this information, right? That's a touch point to say, oh yeah, he's got it, right? Or she's got it. And we're trying to work on getting people the right amount of feedback for everything that they're doing, right? If your hands are on it, you need to be responsive. You don't have to immediately answer, right? I'm not talking 5-minute turnaround time, but I'm just saying in terms of being available to respond, right? It makes it seem like you're on it, right? You're working on it. Let people know you're working on it, and it doesn't just float into the abyss. So responsiveness. And then I love the networking one, right? I'll steal that one too. Like just being able to make connections, being able, there's no conversation, especially in this industry, that's a bad conversation, right? It's really just getting to know people either on a deep level or a fundamental level. you know, understanding them as people and how they interact, how they work, and then you find out how to either capitalize on that, expand on that, use some of those tidbits for your own career and your own path. But whatever conversation it's going to be, even if it's a critique, you know, that conversation is going to help you get better. And so, you know, the networking is extremely important, and finding that next person that you can meet or talk to, even if it's for 5-10 minutes, it might have made their day. So
Thank you, Owie. And then last but not least, and then I'm gonna have you answer this question. And then I'm gonna let you talk a little bit more about NAAIA's Emerging Leaders and what you plan to do there. But this final question came from the audience. Can we touch on the guilt of survival or guilt of success in getting around that as a barrier for Afro-American achievement? Do you just refuse to indulge in collective guilt? Or does this inspire you to bring up more leaders? Hold on, I know I said I was gonna let you answer. I am glad you asked this question. I'm glad you asked this question, because I will say for me, in my 20s, I did feel that guilt that I couldn't really succeed. Or if I had any moment of success or advancement, it felt like I had to bring others up, but it wasn't authentic for me to bring others up. So really, I kind of stayed in my shell. I kind of stayed in my circle, and I let my work speak for me. And if they decided to advance me or promote me, it's because of their doing and not really what I was doing. Like, I'm just doing my best. But literally, what I have learned in my 30s now is that don't think of it as guilt, but think of it as a reformation or a change. Because so many before us probably really did have that guilt, and they just were fine staying in their lane and doing what they need to do. But if you stay in your lane without making any noise, without making any type of distractions, no change will progress. And so I have found out that now, once I have advanced, or I am in places or spaces that I can make a change or want to make a change, I do. And even currently now, yes, I may not be this higher role. Title is nothing to me. It's more so about helping others up. If I see you're a great individual or good at what you do, or there's value to you, I am going to mentor or try to coach or advocate for you upward, because we need it within the industry. And I hope that kind of just speaks to that. But Owie, I'll let you answer the question, and then I'll let you talk about NAAIA Emerging Leaders.
No, I think you bring up a great point, and Alexander, thanks for the question. I think there's guilt in like, hey, I'm the one that made it. How come there's other people that aren't, you know? And to myself, I've barely made it, right? I'm still working on it, and so trying to recognize where you are in your career and where the right time and the right people to connect so that you can bring others along is important. Like, you know, I'm feeling that in my current position, because I don't manage a team, right? So it's very hard, or it's harder for me to just hire people that I want to see at the company, right? If I managed a team, you know, you'd see a very different landscape than probably what's current. So, you know, understanding where you are in the organization to be able to do that. But I try to make suggestions where I can, right? If I see a group being put together, I try to look at the group and see, hey, there's not enough women in this group, there's not enough minorities in this group, there's not enough, you know, just different perspectives, right? Things that I can speak to. And so having a little bit of power in those scenarios, or a little bit of feedback in those scenarios, does go a long way. So I do it in pieces, right? I'm not saying, hey, you need to hire this person because we don't have a person that looks like them. It's more so, hey, have you thought about including them in the candidacy progress? Have you thought about looking internal at this person for a promotion instead of hiring external? It's some of those little things that then amount to a lot of big snowball changes. You know, so but there is a lot of guilt, you know. I don't know if I would use the word guilt, but there is a lot of like, should I be doing more? You know, how much more should I be doing? And it's an unknown answer, but you know, we're still trying to figure it out. So, you know, we try to piecemeal where we can. But yeah, thank you for that question.
Thank you, Owie. So can you talk about NAAIA Emerging Leaders in like 30 seconds?
Yeah,
before
would
we
love
close
to.
out?
Yeah, would love to. And this is perfect timing. We're right on schedule. So, I mean, emerging leaders is something obviously I'm extremely passionate about, obviously within NAAIA and putting people together to make sure people are recognized, spotlit, and all the such in their industries and what they're doing. So currently with the Emerging Leaders program or Emerging Leaders scope within NAAIA, we're building out a mentorship program. So more information to come there. That's going to be led by some of the leaders that have gone through an organization called Corn Ferry U, and we're going to be pulling some help from those leaders and asking them to be mentors. And then we'll, the first cohort of it will be limited, right? But where this is stage one. So there's a mentorship program coming, and this is something that we've been working on for a couple months now. And then also we want to do a lot more spotlights for emerging leaders, and not just the one emerging leader award once a year. But I think there's a lot of people in this industry, especially young professionals in this industry, that deserve to be recognized outside of conference, right? So want to do that. I want to also put a leadership guide together on. I want to put together a resource guide for young professionals as well. And Jeff is asking me to post a graphic, but this is the big reveal. We finally have put together our leadership council. So I'll share my screen right now, and share the folks who will be joining me kind of on this journey. As our National Emerging Leaders Council, we've got Fela Abioye, Briana Allen, Logan Cheadle, Sonya Daies, Juanesha Greenhill, Alexander Hatter, Pete Kidd, and myself. I mean, a beautiful looking group of people, but also very, very, established in their careers, and they're still learning too. So, I want to go on this journey with others and try to make sure that I'm getting a bunch of perspectives as we go down this road. But really, you're going to see a lot more stuff come from our National Emerging Leaders Council. And I'm going to empower these folks to do a lot of things on their own as well, some things that they're passionate about, but we just want to see more engagement with the emerging leaders and young professionals in the industry and within NAAIA. So a lot more to come. We're just getting started, but I'm finally, happy to kind of release this council. Star-studded group. I'm just happy that they've all kind of accepted and are willing to go on this journey with me. So kudos to them. But yeah, that's what we've got going on. This will be announced, I'm sure, sooner than later now that it's all set, but love these guys, and want to make sure that we're giving NAAIA and the young professionals within NAAIA as much as they can and all the resources that they can.
Thank you for watching this flashback episode of NAAIA. We appreciate your time and hope you found the insights valuable. Stay tuned for more enriching content. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the NAAIA community.